Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Boundless Podcast. I'm here with an awesome cosplayer by the name of Ronin. How's it going, Ronin?
Pretty good, bro. How about yourself?
Not too bad. You know, what is your exact name so people can find you on Instagram? Could you spell it out for us?
Well, I have one of the most inconvenient ways of spelling one word, but it's Ronin with underscores after each letter. So make you guys have to really work for it.
So R_O_N. Keep going.
I'm that guy. That guy.
Got it. Hey, it's really unique, and I guarantee you people will not forget it.
Gotcha.
So really nice. So just to start us off, how long have you been cosplaying for?
Going on 4 years now.
Nice. What got you into it?
Funny thing about it was kind of an accident because I've always admired cosplayers. Like I've always liked cosplaying. I've always, been big into manga and anime and, video games and comics, but I always kind of admired from afar. But I went to my first San Diego Comic-Con in 2015. And I actually just was like, I had this kind of vendor and he had a Red X mask from Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that is such a fucking dope mask. I have to buy this shit. So I buy this mask and maybe like 20 minutes later, I'm wearing it walking around the con and this little kid goes nuts over it. Starts freaking out. It's like, that's Red X. Da, 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 da. And I've never had that kind of attention towards. I finally kind of, I guess, understood why cosplayers do what they do because that kid, as far as that kid was concerned, I was Red X walking around. And I guess that kind of warm feeling just kind of stuck with me. And I just decided to kind of take it to the next level. And then literally maybe like 6-7 months later, I kind of started my Ronin cosplay and yeah.
You just get off from there. So he's like, yeah, that's not Ronin walking around. That's Red X walking around or whoever that guy was. Yeah.
It's like Red X and like beach shorts and a tank top. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm this deep cut version you don't know about.
He's like, believable. Kid's like 100% believable.
Yeah, kid didn't care at all. All he cared about was the mask and the X on the face, and he was sold.
I do love that, man. Whenever I see kids or, basically kids at conventions, you can just tell them anything and they can see anything and they're like, amazing. They're just
they have the most powerful imaginations of all fucking time, man.
They do, man, and I love it. I mean, you could be obviously just wearing like the mask, like you said, your whole rest of your body showing.
Yeah, like clearly you can. I look like I just came out of a Walmart with a Red X mask, and this kid was like, he saw nothing but the mask, and I loved it.
That's hilarious, man. So that brings me into my following question. Basically, what do you cosplay as now?
Well, I cosplay as Ronin. So pretty much the reason why I started it was originally I wanted to actually do Red Hood, and because Red Hood is my favorite comic book character of all time, followed by Ronin. But every time I used to go on Instagram, I used to always see, man, there's so many Red Hood cosplayers out there, and I kind of wanted to stick to obscure characters. And at the time, people know Hawkeye, but they don't know that Ronin persona of Hawkeye. So I took a leap of faith and reached out to these guys, Villainous Props, shout out to them, and had an idea about modifying a helmet. And it started with the helmet, because at first I didn't think that it was possible. I'm like, there's no way I'm being able to get a mask that looks exactly what I'm envisioning in my head. And the second that these guys made it work, I'm like, I have to build the armor. I have to figure this out, because I have the most difficult part of it is already done now. So the motivation was pretty much just to bring Ronin to life, because one, he's a very kind of deep cut character. Two, it's a difficult challenge, but I knew I could kind of do it. So it just kept me motivated. And I mean, it took me almost 6 months my first time trying it.
Nice. So you said that who made your costume again?
Villainous Props.
Villainous
So
Props.
they made the helmet. They have actual helmet.
Perfect. Okay, so I had just, if everybody's listening, I just had an interview. You can go check that out with Neverending Dreams and Quirkless Cosplay, and they describe in detail the process about making your cosplay. But Ronin actually modifies his cosplay. So could you tell us a bit about that process?
So modifying is, I call it like, it's an unconventional way of doing it, because I think a lot of people know, like, always want to, you need to have a 3D printer, you need to, be able to make things from scratch. But what you can do sometimes is, like, I look at things and I see that this has the potential to be something else. Like, for example, I noticed, like, with a lot of, comic book, a lot of things in comic books they don't actually account for is when you put on, let's say, like a skin type mask. Comic books always have latex masks, so it automatically contorts to the size of your head. That doesn't happen in real life. If I bought a Ronin mask, that was made out of, let's say, like, cloth or whatever, it would look awkward. My hair is long, my face is not shaped perfectly like an egg, like in the comics. So I had to figure out, how can I get that same look, but at the same time, have real life applications. And I decided to go with buckets. So when I started doing that, I realized, I'm like, you know what? Rather than have somebody make a Ronin helm for me from scratch, I'm like, how about they modify something that already kind of looks like that? Just needs to be a few things just need to be added. So seeing how I kind of pulled it off with the helmet, when I reached out to these guys, I'm like, I took that mindset and applied it to everything else going forward. Even with my armor, like like my armor, when I first saw the armor, one thing I noticed with Ronin's armor that it's very body fitting, but it looks thick. I'm like, what kind of looks similar to that? I'm like, you know what? Medieval armor looks very similar to that, where it's very thick. It looks like you can take a broadsword, but at the same time, you still have your dexterity and movement. So I went on eBay, looked for some cheap things, and kind of Frankensteined it together. You know, I had to use a Dremel, cut the metal to make it look, you know, a little bit shorter, tighter. Had to stretch out the pieces by, you know, separating them and then adding leather straps so it fits my body. So it is a process that it simplifies cosplay armor making and also makes it more difficult, because when I mess up epically, where I'm like, I put all this a week of work into fitting it. I'm like, and I realize this shit is now a tank top, you know? So yeah, it's trying to trial and error, but I've kind of gotten the hang of it as well too. So it's unconventional, but I tend to think that if you master it, you can build cosplays a lot quicker. Sorry, I live near a train track, so
no problem. No problem. So I do like that because it's something I've never really considered. Everyone, like you just said, everyone's like, oh, I need to be, you know, owning a 3D printer, or oh, hey, I got to be like a master armor builder, because usually at the conventions, all we see are those crazy elaborate, you know, armors. And so I like this concept because you're taking something that was pre-made, but really making it your own. So you know, 100,000 people can buy this costume, but no one still has one like yours.
Yeah, it's because it's a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of customization that goes into it, because at the end of the day, I mean, the one thing I do with my cosplay is I like doing a realistic interpretation of what I've seen. So I don't like I didn't copy Ronin exactly as he is in the comics. In the comics, you know, he has an actual belt that holds it up, like a cloth belt. In the comics, his mask has actual, you know, like it has like facial expressions on it. But I realized that certain things don't translate very well. So what you have to do is you have to modify them for a real life use. So if I'm running, like, for example, people always wonder, like, you know, I guess a lot of cosplayers that use swords, for example, it's pretty damn difficult to actually pull a sword out of a hilt that's on your back.
It's very difficult.
Very difficult. You don't realize how difficult it is until you rock a cosplay, and you're like, how the hell do these fuckers do it in the TV shows and movies? They do it so quick. Yeah. So you have to kind of like modify it to like suit in a real life application. So I always tend to kind of angle it a little bit more to the whatever shoulders my swinging arm, because I can reach back and pull it out and slide it out a lot easier, and it looks cooler than versus being like, you know, reaching back like I'm trying to scratch my back. I'm like, hold on just a second, let me just grab this sword real quick before I fuck you up. You know. I guess my style is always reflected in that, because I always change a lot of things. The only thing that's very similar to the comics that my Ronin has is the symbol on the face, because I felt that was very synonymous with Ronin. Like, he has the golden symbol on his face. He wears a Jin Bowery, which is a traditional, you know, samurai vest, and also he has the designs on his shin guards are very specific in every interpretation you see him. So I'll keep that, but everything else is always subject to change for me.
Got it. That's really cool, man. And for anyone who doesn't know, go check out his Instagram as we spelled it out, Ronin, with all the underscores in between each letter. You can see exactly what we're talking about if you head over to his Instagram and check out his images. So I wanted to switch it up and also talk about a few other things. So tell me what you think about the cosplay community and the POC community today.
Granted, I've only been in it for like 4 years, but I think it's changing pretty rapidly, because I remember back in the day, I feel like the cosplay community used to be primarily anime based, you know, because a lot of, you know, nerds have roots in something, whether that they came from gaming to, you know, cosplay, or came from, you know, anime and manga to cosplay, or came from comic books to cosplay. So I think the community is becoming a little bit more merged now, and it's actually a good thing, because before it used to be very separated, where like if you're a cosplayer, you specifically cosplay, you know, video game characters or, you know, maybe anime characters and stuff like that. So I just like that the fact it's more integrated, but it comes with its pluses and minuses, you know, as well too, because when you have more people coming into a community, you have more opinions, therefore you have more disagreements and stuff like that, and it's becoming a little bit more difficult than it used to be to navigate. So I would say, like, you know, even now, like we kind of like even discussed before you know we started this podcast, that it has a degree of elitism that's slowly creeping in that I'm not too happy with, and I think it can be discouraging for people that want to start out, because they feel as if they don't come out the gates with something that's amazing cosplay wise, they're not going to be accepted, or people are not really going to care about them, you know. And that's the thing that I think is it's saddening, I guess, to say.
100% true. And as I was telling you before we started, you're the second male I've actually been able to interview on the podcast, with Never Ending Dreams being the first. And just could you elaborate more on what it's like to be a male, and I guess what we could consider, you know, arguably a female-dominated field?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that I think male cosplayers have to be a little bit more intricate with their cosplay, cosplay to really receive, attention and, I guess, acknowledgement nowadays. And like, for example, some of the bigger cosplayers out there, like Leon Chiro, like, is one of my idols. The guy, hands down, can do pretty much everything. And I don't know how, but he looks like every damn character he cosplays as. Like, he's cosplayed as, like Squall Lionheart from Final Fantasy VIII, and then also cosplayed as, like some characters from, like, I don't even know, like what's his name? Riku from Kingdom Hearts. So I'm like, dude, that's crazy. But he also is insanely talented and goes above and beyond, but he's an anomaly because you also will find other cosplayers, like, for example, like, shout out to Jessica Nigri. It's pretty much the OG female cosplayer to me.
Yep.
It's, as a male cosplayer, you can feel like that you have to work 10 times harder, but also it does keep you more creative and innovative to a certain degree. So that is a good thing about it. And it sounds like I'm complaining. I'm not. It's just one of those things where it's just noticeable. I feel like any, male cosplayer probably say the same thing.
And I completely agree. We've had this discussion with, other people on the podcast, and I just wanted to get your opinion and what you thought about it. But yeah, everyone pretty much agrees. So nice. So what's your next cosplay?
So right now I'm about 80% done with Ultimate Hawkeye from the Ultimate Universe. And pretty much the reason why I like Ultimate Hawkeye, because I tend to like jaded characters. I think they make for more interesting stories when a person's moral alignment isn't necessarily just straight edge. It's almost like a person that can be heroic, but he's doing heroic things for selfish reasons. You're always interested by their motivation. And Hawkeye from the Ultimate Universe has a pretty drastically different story, I guess you could say, rise to fame and heroicness than his counterpart does in the Earth 616 universe. And he the biggest noticeable thing aesthetically wise is that he wears a mask. He has a mask that kind of comes up to his forehead, has these goggles, and he actually has artificial enhancements. He has, enhanced vision and things like that, and has some pretty crazy drastic things that happen to him that make him a little bit different than what people are used to. Because with Clint Barton, everyone's always used to him being very jovial, almost like a Spider-Man type character, cracking jokes in the middle of, danger and stuff like that. But in the 616 universe, he has crazy things that happen to him, like, for example, spoiler alert, but this comic's been out for like 10 years, so sorry. But like his Black Widow in that universe kills his family.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes down, and then also as well too, like he's so lethal to the point where he's literally being interrogated, and he breaks off a part of his fingernail, uses it as a projectile weapon, and kills somebody with it.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. It's very different from like the Clint Barton we know.
Hardcore, yeah.
This dude's a savage, and his costume is pretty. His costume has an aesthetic to match it. So I decided to go with that, and then I have a big project I'm working on that I won't reveal probably till next year because it's a slow burn. This one I've been trying to figure out, and it's probably one of the few cosplays that stumps me, because for the most part I can usually figure out things within like a month or so, and then it's just a matter of modifying things. But this one actually stumps me in how to make it functional and aesthetically cool.
Back to the Jaded Hawkeye, what does this character look like? Because I know of a lot of different Hawkeyes. What's this color scheme?
So his color scheme is still purple. It's still very dark purples and black, but the biggest thing is the mask. I was saying, like, he has a mask, like it's a cloth mask in the comic that comes up to his forehead and his hair sticks out.
Okay.
And he has these they're red, ruby red lens goggles that he rocks on his face. So his face is pretty much always covered, and his costume primarily as well too. And the biggest thing is he doesn't use the bow that often. He actually uses guns. Jeez. So they focus on him still being a marksman, but he primarily uses guns, which is the cool thing. So that's a big distinct difference between him and his 616 counterpart. And his personality is a lot more different. That's the reason why I think I kind of was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do a Hawkeye, but Hawkeye yet again as well too is one of those cosplays that a lot of people do. So I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do an obscure version of Hawkeye. So I decided to go with that.
Perfect. Yeah, and I was actually just looking it up now, and I've never even seen this version of Hawkeye.
Yeah, it looks pretty rad, right?
It does. It's really cool. Yeah, it's especially this one image. If you're at your computer and still listening to this podcast, definitely look it up. It is so cool. So. Yeah,
it's pretty cool because even also as well too, like he has no problem letting people know how badass he is, because he'll literally tell somebody like, I'm going to shoot you in the leg from a mile away, and doesn't matter who you are, what's going to happen, and it will still happen because he is that good at what he does,
Yeah, like this is happening.
Like this is happening. Like you have no choice, bro. Like you're going to take this bullet to the leg and deal with
it. Hilarious. So I know a bit before we were talking about some of the conventions here on the East Coast. Coast, and we're talking about some conventions on the West Coast. You're actually a Maryland cosplayer who has made it out to the West Coast, which is something I still aspire to do. So could you tell us about the differences between the East Coast and the West Coast conventions?
Well, I guess primarily the biggest thing I've noticed is that the people, I mean, it sounds cliche to say, but, like going to San Diego, like people in California are just really chill. Like just everyone's just there to have like a good time. And you feel like, I felt like, I mean, I've been going to San Diego, and it's going to be my fourth year in a row going. And it just has a vibe where you can walk up to anybody and talk to them. It's not a matter of, oh, you have to have a super cool cosplay for them to even give you attention. You can just walk up to them, whether you're just wearing, I don't know, bunny ears, or you're just walking there for a cool t-shirt. Like no one really judges you in the way that I feel like some of these other cons might, because like, for example, like Katsucon, like we were talking about before, I enjoyed it because I got to see a lot of these cosplays I've only known online, talked on Instagram and stuff like that. But in terms of the way people interacted, I wasn't that big of a fan of it, because it really did feel like I always put myself in the shoes of someone that, for example, let's say you're not a cosplayer. You're not a cosplayer and you don't have a group of friends to go to this con with. Would you still have a good time? In San Diego, I would say yes. And at Katsucon and on DC, I would say probably not, because of the different mindsets people have. And I don't know, granted, like, this was just my experience. Like, I don't consider myself a big cosplayer. I'm kind of just, I mean, I have something that I like and something that people tend to like, people like as well too. I'm grateful for that. So maybe the way people are interacting with me might have been different, but I just kind of saw how some people were just there to admire the cosplayers and have fun, and nobody was talking to them.
Yeah.
And that kind of bugged me for some reason. But in San Diego, I've never seen that. Like, no matter who you are or what you show up in, people are there to have a good time and, have fun. And that's what it's all about. So that was the biggest difference I noticed. And it just depends on, what your motivation is. Some cosplayers, they go to these cons to promote themselves. So if that's kind of your style, I guess, cosplaying, then you probably will enjoy, some of these smaller cons and East Coast cons, a lot more, versus like the West Coast, where it's more communal. Everyone's there to just have a good time. Doesn't matter who you are. You can have 1 million followers on Instagram, or you can have 1 follower on Instagram. But if you're there to have a good time, you're going to have a good time. And I think that was what I liked the most about the West Coast versus the East.
So would you say that you do prefer East Coast cons, West Coast cons compared to East?
Well, in short, yes.
That's fine. I mean, yeah, like I said, I've never been to one, but it sounds like it would be awesome. I've only mostly gone to cons here in North Carolina and in Atlanta. But actually, I'm trying to make it up to a BlurCon this year. Are you going?
Dude, I'm going to, man. Like, honestly, I found out about BlurCon actually at Katsucon. I feel so bad. One of the dudes that runs it came up to me and he's like, "Hey, man, love your cosplay, da 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 da." And it was like, you're giving me all these details, and I was so damn drunk. I was like, "Yeah, man, yeah." So everything he was saying was going in one ear and out the other, and literally all I heard was BlurCon, we're taking over, and then he was gone. I was like, what happened? Is like a fucking alien invasion going down? What did I miss? So yeah, I'm gonna definitely go down there, man. It's gonna be pretty cool. I'm curious because I'm just happy that also as well too, cosplays become more integrated as well. It's not like because nerds come in all shapes and forms, different colors, races, ethnicities, sexualities, doesn't matter, and I'm glad that now we're starting to see like a lot of cultures that traditionally probably wouldn't associate with like comic books and cosplay and gaming and all that stuff, now starting to not care what other people think and just jumping in, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. You are who you are, so you should embrace it. So it's cool that BlurCon is even a thing. Ask me 10 years ago if I thought there would ever be a BlurCon, I would tell you you're fucking retarded.
Yep, never.
Yeah.
It seems like you grew up in that same. Well, you might ask if I might ask how old you are.
I'm 28.
Okay, so yeah, I'm 30, so we're not very far off. So you grew up like in that same time period where
I grew up where you had to hide being a nerd.
Exactly, man.
Pretend to be cool.
Rough. Yes.
Yeah.
For all you newcomers and new listeners, we paved the way for you guys.
Exactly. Like our literally blood and tears and sacrifice are literally why you can walk around and being a nerd is cool. Because back in the day, I remember drawing swords in class. I got made fun of and didn't get many dates with these ladies because I was out here trying to draw a gun blade from Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, man. I mean, I remember when the original WoW came out, like before all the, whatever. And I was just like in class reading like, the character book, and people were like, "What are you reading? Like, what is that?" And
it was a different world, man. Because I just remember because I remember like I used to have this obsession with Kingdom Hearts, which is like my favorite game of all time.
Me too, man.
Like I just remember this being like, I wish I could just have a Keyblade. I just wanted a Keyblade so badly. to the point where rather than taking a test in class, like this is literally a pass or fail situation. I may not go to college if I don't figure this test. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and draw this Keyblade instead. And I just remember being so obsessed and proud of myself, just, being true to who I was. But at the same time, I mean, I do remember those days where I would maybe like kind of lie about, my like, how much I gained and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it was this, I mean, it's so different now, man. Cause I just remember like I remember like being a kid, you thrown in a box, you were either a nerd, you were a jock, you were a hipster, you were a skater. Like you had to be something. You couldn't be a mixture.
You had to identify. Yep.
Exactly. You had to conclusively be something. And the biggest thing that I think that's awesome about today is that you can be a jack of all trades and that's celebrated.
Yep.
But also I think people don't understand there are a lot of people that had to go through, like a lot of nonsense like you and I for the modern day nerd to even have that.
Yeah, man. It was rough in the early 2000s and late 90s. It was rough.
Dude, you know the consequences of telling a girl that you like Goku?
Dude.
it meant no second date.
Second date? It meant you weren't getting talked to again. Like you were disowned.
It was. They're like, this dude is weird. He's trying to like yell in the hallway and gain some new transformation. I don't know why he keeps saying Kamehameha every time he sees me.
Yeah, man. It's so funny. It's so funny how you bring that up because I haven't thought about those days in forever. But it's just so true. I remember I was a huge fan of Jet Set Radio Future for the original Xbox. And I was like, dude, I just wanted a pair of skates and to like grind on walls. This is like all I ever wanted. And I remember, like I'm sure you went like the skating ring was like the thing back in the day.
Dude, hell yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, I bought it. I remember used to be this brand called Audio, and they were like the coolest skater jackets. I remember like, if I wear this jacket, maybe I'll be good at skating. Maybe it'll enhance my skill sets. And I can tell you that it did not.
It did not. Yeah, man. I just remember I was like trying to like jump around and do things. They were like, yeah, that kid is weird and we don't talk to him.
Like he literally is trying to like rollerblade up a wall. It does not work like that. Physics would not allow you, sir.
No, I'm like, listen, it's just about heart and believing. That's all it's about.
Just like rocket power, I thought you can grind on everything according to that show. Man, like the laws of physics did not like
they don't apply to us. Yeah.
They don't. Like I'm like, all right, this is a 30-foot rail. If I just gain enough speed and say woogity woogity beforehand, I'm gonna nail this grind.
I'm gonna kill it.
And then I just fell down 30 foot of stairs. I'm like, okay, all right. So yes, I've been lied to.
Yeah. And that's what I love also about cosplay. Man, it kind of obviously, there's a world between reality and fiction, but it kind of for a little bit blurs those worlds, When you're running around as Ronin or when you're running around as Goku or, Goblin Slayer, whoever have you, you obviously know there's no goblins here and you're not going to kill, but
you got to believe it, man. You got to believe it because
believe.
Like even when like I'm doing like, photo shoots and stuff like that, like in my head, I'm sitting there like Thanos is coming at me. I better get my guard up right now.
Yes.
And it makes it so much easier to pose because you're really in that mindset. If you're sitting there telling yourself, oh, I feel dumb for doing this, like it's going to be reflective in, how you carry yourself. So then therefore a lot of photos won't come out good. Exactly. And even when you're walking around cons, like I get it, I mean, this is not me, bashing people that don't have that cosplay confidence, but you got to own it. You're already dressed up as a fictional character. How much more embarrassed can you be? Think about it. Like, well, why are you sitting here now? You're dressed as like, let's say you're dressed as a Joker, and now you're too shy to do the laugh. Now you're too shy to walk around and ask where is Harley at. Like, nah, you own that shit. Because no matter what, the same people that are gonna make fun of you, they're gonna make fun of you no matter what. They're gonna make fun of you for being dressed as a Joker, or they're gonna make fun of you for even saying that you want to dress as a Joker. So you might as well have it your way.
100% be you true and through. 100%. And that's what I was just talking about on my last episode where, I'm a photographer and I take pictures of a lot of people. And it just blows my mind when I get, I obviously admire your cosplay because I came up to you and asked you for a picture. So obviously I'm liking it. And they're like, oh, no, I'm shy. I don't want to take a picture. I don't think it looks that good. I'm like, man, no. Like, you are on point. That's why I came up to you. Like, own it, believe in yourself. And I even have a whole article about that, just like believing in yourself. Because, man, it's so easy nowadays just to get down. And,
I mean, the world is colluding against you these days. So, like, when you find a reason to be happy, hold on to it. Don't discourage yourself out of it. Like, own it. Whether it's cosplay, gaming, I don't care what it is. If it makes you happy, own it. Because it's easier to be sad than it is to be happy. So when you are happy, you work on it.
100% true. And I mean, you're also around a whole bunch of like-minded people. Like when doctors go to their doctoral meetings or whenever they go to their meetings with their fellow staff members, it's like I'm here amongst my peers. We all are into this. We know this. You feel, proud about it. It's the same way at conventions. I'm here with fellow-minded people. We are all one on the same
we're
team.
all nerds. Like you already have a mutual liking when you first meet somebody. It's like you're here for a reason, whether it's anime, video games, whatever it is. You know that you're into something that isn't real. Like that's your mutual interest, right?
Yep.
So why make it harder than it really is? I think sometimes people put too much emphasis on, I guess, making things like cool.
Yeah.
Like cool to me is not a thing. Cool is what you're like. Like when I'm dressed as Ronin, I feel fucking cool. Even if 1,000 people tell me this motherfucker is walking down the street dressed as a gold and black ninja, I'm like, I don't care, man. I feel great. I feel strong. I feel like if I got jumped by the hand, I could take him out.
I am on this right now.
I'm on this. I got the suit. I got all the gear on. The skill sets will follow. Maybe they won't, but I believe they will.
But I believe
they will. I will fight everybody right now, and just own it, and that's the big thing about cosplay. It's like you get to be somebody else for 3 days in a row.
Yes.
And that's awesome to me.
And it's so funny how quickly we can change it.
Sorry, there's a train in the background.
No problem. It's so funny how quickly we can change names because obviously your name is in Ronin. But as soon as someone yells out Ronin, you turn around.
I do. I do.
Instant. I mean, if anyone you yell out, whatever any other name is, Andrew, Mark, John, you won't turn around. But as soon as instantaneous, you're like, you're Goblin Slayer. Like, hey, Goblin Slayer. You're like, oh, you mean me?
Exactly, man. It's kind of like almost like how like some people respond more to their nicknames than they do their actual name.
Yes.
It's the same thing with me. Like when someone calls me Ronin, like I won't lie. Initially I used to be like, I don't know how to respond to this. Like if it's a little kid, it's so much easier to be like, oh, Ronin. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? It's easier to get into character because you're doing it for, this little kid that's looking at you with these big eyes, snot dripping out of his nose. Like, hey, can I have a photo? And I'm like, hell yeah, you can have a photo of Ronin. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But when a grown-ass man's like, what up, Ronin? I'm like, hey. Like now I own it. Now I love it. Now I'm like, yeah, what's up, Ronin? But it does take time to kind of get into character, I guess.
It does. And that's something else I was mentioning too. We put so much time and effort into these cosplays that not only you don't want to be recognized, but man, I'm telling you right now, if I've got like some of these cosplays where people put like, I don't know, like 5-6 months worth of work into it, dude, I'm wearing that thing to bed. I'm wearing it on the couch. I'm wearing it to go get coached.
I 100% agree with you, man. Like when I wear that armor, man, I kid you not, like I don't want to take it off.
Yes.
Like it's when I go to cons, like the funny thing about it, like I get so excited, like I get almost annoyed of how me having to put on all the stuff because it takes me about like 25 minutes to get everything on. So when I'm putting it on, I'm like, oh my God, this shit is so annoying. But the second it's on, I sleep in that thing. I'm walking around in that thing. I'm going to balls, all dressed up and everything. I don't care if I'm the only one dressed up as Ronin. No one has any idea there's a con in town. I'm full blown committed to it, man. So yeah, dude, it's just. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's kind of a weird thing when people, like you kind of mentioned, put all this time into something, like months of your life into something just to be shy to wear. It's like, no, you better rock that thing. That thing better be like a second skin at that point.
I completely agree. So nice, man. Definitely glad we had that conversation.
Yeah.
So another conversation, because you're only one of the other second guys I've had on this convention. I mean, on the podcast. A lot of people, are at conventions and they're looking for somebody else who's into the same thing as them. Basically looking for a girlfriend, looking for a boyfriend.
Yeah.
What would you advise for those people? How do you, if I'm a guy and I want to approach a girl at a convention, how do I go about doing it?
To be honest, I think all right, so this is kind of like I'm going to give like a 2-part answer for this because circumstances have kind of changed nowadays with how to, I guess you say, approach, someone you're interested in. Because the biggest thing nowadays is this thing in cosplay now that unfortunately is like you get a lot of creeps and weirdos now, like this destroying cons and having everyone fear for their safety. So back in the day, I mean, you could basically just walk up to somebody, like you like their costume, you generally compliment on them. Even if it's someone dressed as like, Tifa from Final Fantasy VII. She's very, she barely has anything on, but your interest in the character is not based off how, the aesthetic is. Yeah. But nowadays, I feel as if a lot of people don't trust that. You can generally just be interested in the fact that, hey, I've never seen a Tifa cosplayer. That's cool. I'm going to go say what's up and, compliment her cosplay. But nowadays, you get a lot of people that do that and then have very malicious intentions involved in it. So I think me personally, I mean, it would just be more like it sounds dumb to say, but I think you just have to you have to be genuine. Like, what do you like about that cosplay? Go be genuine about it. If you're into, let's say I'm a guy, I want to approach a girl. If you're into that cosplay because, the girls are, titties are out and everything, I wouldn't even recommend going up there because you're just thirsting after. You're doing the same stuff that she's trying to protect herself against.
You're right.
But if you're there, if you're genuinely interested in her cosplay and it's amazing, you appreciate the army detail, the intricacies, the paint job, all that stuff, go and tell her. And I see no reason why anyone have a problem with that.
100%.
Because we're all there to show off our work. So at the end of the day, when you appreciate somebody else's work, I mean, I don't see why they'd be offended. But if you go up there and you're complimenting somebody on how their body fits for work, then guess what? Yeah, you deserve to be, shunned and for people to call you out on shit like that. So
perfect. And so on the same page, have you seen, I mean, because you've been to a good bit of conventions, some of the larger conventions, have you seen a lot of inappropriate behavior?
I mean, I've never seen it like upright, like I'm walking down the hallway and see somebody blatantly groping somebody. But I mean, I've heard stories, and you can kind of get a certain vibe for like certain people that like, yeah, you're here for the wrong reasons. Like, especially sometimes I guess photographers, they have a certain degree of power because at the end of the day, they can, our cosplays, the way we get our cosplays out there are by taking photos or doing, like fan videos. So we need somebody to record these things or document these things with a camera. So some of these photographers abuse their power because they gain trust and comfortability of a lot of people. And then, you see people trying to get people secluded, like, hey, I want to do a private shoot with you, but just you, things like that. And I've heard stories and stuff like that. And even on Instagram, you see a lot of people that, will screenshot people saying crazy things in the DMs and, stuff like that. And it's unfortunate. I've personally never seen it, but I mean, I'm not naive. I know that stuff exists. And I mean, I always try to tell, especially female cosplayers out there, like, be very careful because people's intentions are masked nowadays with these cons. And if you're ever, if you don't feel comfortable with like, shooting with somebody, go with somebody else. Go with somebody there because at the end of the day, if they have a problem with someone else being there, then you can reasonably infer that they probably did not have good intentions with you in the first place. So it's one of those things where, I mean, it's just unfortunate, but it's a reality of I guess you could say, business.
Yeah. And being a cosplay photographer, I'm always trying to, I guess like maybe I'm a bit overzealous about not being creepy or whatever. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to do anything weird. I just want you to follow me over here. I'm just going to take a few pictures of you. I promise, like, here's my driver's license. Here's my, you have everything.
A blood sample. Here's where I live. Exactly. I swear to God, I am not going to touch a piece of your body without your consent at all. And you got to be like that because there are motherfuckers that go out there and they take advantage of some girl's naivety, like especially young cosplayers. Like, because I remember I got into cosplay in my 20s, so I kind of already had a formula as to how people do things. So I can only imagine, like, being, a young female jumping like 18, 19 years old, just jumping into a brand new, a hobby you're interested in, and people looking at you like a piece of meat. And on top of that, you're maybe naive to it. Yeah. And then a photographer wants let's say, wants to take free photos of you, and that girl's probably more interested in the fact like, oh, it's free, this is good, good for my brand and all that stuff. Yeah. But that guy's more interested in being like, yeah, I'll give you these free photos, but I want to just get you alone.
Exactly.
And that's the part that it sucks that this is now creeping into our community because I mean, we created cosplay in our separate world of nerddom to get away from creepos and weirdos and people that, outcasted us. Now, those same people are creeping into what we've created and trying to ruin it with the same shit we try to get away from.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm not naive to it. I hear stories, but fortunately, I haven't seen anything happen. So it just makes me more aware of it. I'm like, whenever I'm introducing myself, I'm like, not creepy, just not weird. Yeah. So that works. All right.
Yeah, man. But also the thing I think was pretty cool as well, too, is that I guess I like the fact also as well too that like, women's sexuality is becoming empowered with like lewd cosplay, for example, because it's one of those things where we always say, women can do whatever they want she can do whatever she wants with her body, right? And then, you get some people that have, like an opinion of lewd cosplayers like, well, she shouldn't be half naked if she doesn't want dudes grabbing her like that. So if every single time you see a girl that is barely clothed, you immediately turn into a Neanderthal and just want to grab her, that says more about you than her cosplay.
It does.
I aspire basically to live in a world where anyone can dress however they want cosplay-wise. Because you see some of these characters, like, I keep forgetting her name, but there's this character in Soul Calibur. I think her name is something Valentine. She has the whip and chain, and she looks like Ivy. Exactly, Ivy, yeah. She's like an armored dominatrix.
Yeah.
So when you see, like, people cosplay as her, is now I'm sitting here wondering, like, okay, according to some of these creepos' logic, oh, she shouldn't be dressed as like that. She should cover herself up so I don't act on an impulse that you shouldn't even fucking have.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I just don't understand. And I hope that it doesn't, I hope that, like, you know, weirdos and creepos don't deter, you know, some of these women that are bold enough to go out there and own their cosplay exactly as it is in their original source material from doing it because they're scared that they're going to get unwanted attention.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's, of course, natural to have thoughts. You know, when you see an attractive female, it's only natural. But acting on those thoughts is the problem.
Yeah, dude. It's if you act on everything, if you act on every single thing you thought, like 99% of the world's population would be in prison.
So true.
It's like we thought, like, all right, well, like you're at work and then your boss is talking shit to you and like, I'm just going to knock this dude out right now. Like, is that a good thing to do? No, but you thought it, right? So why would you sit there and be like, I want to go and do something disgusting to this girl and then go and actually do it? Exactly. It's like, what the hell?
Exactly, man. It makes zero sense. But
man.
Unfortunately, not everyone has that level of control or that thought process. So everybody, be safe out here. And I don't know. That's why I've been talking, only go with photographers or even other cosplayers or, I don't know, any artists, whatever have you, that friends recommend and that you know of. If you just met this person today, don't go off with him back to his hotel or her hotel, whatever. That's
he just invited you to a Motel 5 at 3 a.m. for a photo shoot. It's like, chances are it's not going to be much photos being taken. So,
yeah, that's another thing, especially like being able to discern who's a true photographer or not. I mean, you should be able to pull up their website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, something, and be like, okay, I see the type of work this dude is doing. If he shows up with a disposable camera and has like no images,
like he's asking you how to turn the camera on and all that. It's like, well, I don't know if this person's legit. You can raise me in fur.
Yeah, like it's okay to insult their profession at that point because odds are there is no profession. I love it.
Oh my god, man, it's hilarious.
So, on that note, which characters do you like to see at conventions?
Well, you know, the thing about it is, like, as much as I always talk shit about Red Hood, he's like my favorite character of all time. Like, I'm always excited to see a Red Hood cosplay, but I'm also like annoyed by it at the same time because he's done so often. Like, he used to be such an obscure character. Because the oath I made to myself when I started cosplaying was, I'm going to stick with obscure characters. You know, like, I don't want to do a character that, you know, you can basically buy the costume at Hobby Lobby or Party City or something. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I always compare this to like how cell phones were back in the day. Remember, like, when cell phones, every cell phone looked different. You're excited to show off your Engage or Sidekick. Now
the
it's
Razor, when you had the Razor?
That shit was so damn cool. I'm like, yo, check this thing out. This thing is the size of my wallet and flips open. We're in the year 3005.
Yo.
And then now it's like every cell phone is a black brick. It's like, you're not excited to show that shit off. So it's the same thing with cosplay. Like, your cosplay is still dope, but there are a million other people that have the same dope cosplay. So I'd rather have a unique one, you know? Like, so that's just, so I'm always excited to see Red Hood, and, you know, also as well too, I don't know why, like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, I feel like it's always cool. Because you see people that look dead like Cloud, and then you see some people that don't, but still are bold enough to do it. Like, I saw a Cloud, I think it was last year, and it was the coolest version I've ever seen. The dude was actually, he was a black guy, and he had dreadlocks, and they were shaped as if like, almost like, they were shaped in the same anime style that Cloud has his hair with, very spiky and all that. I'm like, dude, that is the coolest shit I've ever seen. Like, it was such a, I kid you not, man. Like, I do not know. That dude, like, probably had like 10 kilos of hair gel in or something, because that thing, his hair was not moving, dude. Like, his hair, it was so cool. And he had a very, like a very cool, it was a very cool version of doing it, because now he had the Buster Sword, you know, the giant sword.
Of course, yeah.
But his actual outfit was like almost modern day clothing but you can tell it was influenced from the original clothing that Cloud wore in the video game.
Interesting.
And it was such a cool thing to see. So, like, I'm always a fan of seeing intricate spins of popular things.
Yeah. Huh. That's really interesting. I would love to have taken a picture of that person.
Oh, dude, yeah. Trust me, I tried to get one, but there was like 10,000 other people that are trying to. Yeah, it was. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. That's the problem, man. Like, 'cause I want to cosplay more, but it's hard to juggle the two. I can't take pictures and cosplay. Like, it's hard.
It's a choice, man. It is a choice. I remember the first 2 years of me cosplaying, I was going to cons by myself, and I have zero photos of it, because I'm like, I can't. You know, you don't want to be a nuisance and asking people like, hey man, can you take a photo of me in this back alley at this wall because it looks pretty cool? You know, like, it's like, how do you ask somebody, a complete stranger, that? Two, it's like, I mean, mean, at the end of the day, it's just best to have like friends that, you know, don't mind, or cosplayers as well too, because they understand the need to have as much photos and documentation as possible of all these cons. Because you want to remember these moments. Like there are times where I forget that, you know, like I even had that moment at a con. Then I look at a photo and I'm like, oh crap, I did forget that I, you know, went to the sci-fi party 2 years ago in San Diego and stuff like that. So I get your pain, man. You're either a photographer or a cosplayer, but you can't be both.
Exactly. And one thing I do love so much about photography is like I have all these albums on my website from most, if not every convention I've gone to. And so I'll be like, man, what was I doing, you know, last year at this time? And then I'll go to my website and I'm like, holy crap, I forgot all about these pictures.
Yeah, and it triggers a memory, right? Like you go through like a database of just all memories that are there, but you weren't actually actively thinking about.
Yeah, man. It's like when you pull out that old Nokia that's still got like 98% power.
Exactly. It still has a bullet hole in it, somehow it's still running. You know, like you can put it, like you can literally like charge an entire city with it.
Dude, best cell phone ever. I don't care what anyone says. Screw smartphones. That thing was OG and it was legit.
I'm telling you, man, like the future of like army, like, you know, like when the military, when they would need like new armor, don't use Kevlar, use Nokia.
Yes, just use Nokia. It's all over your body.
They are nuclear missile resistant. You can drop it from the stratosphere and it will still be good to go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, because you were born, I guess, in the late 2000s.
Or 5 minutes ago.
Or 5 minutes ago. You can check out the original Nokia cell phones. I don't remember the model number. I think it was like 331 or something like that.
I have no idea. I just remember like it was blue and silver. Dude. And the screen was like a fraction of the actual phone. You could barely see what you're even looking at.
Man, you could go like a month, I kid you not, without charging this thing. It was the best cell phone ever.
Those phones were ridiculous. It's true what they say. Like if you drop a Nokia on the ground will break, not the phone.
100% true. And like every now and then on Facebook, I come across these memes that are like, "Oh man, you know, I was in my backyard doing some digging, removing some plants, and I found an old Nokia. It still had like 99% charge." Like a missed call.
A missed call. It's like someone called me back in 1998. Still had the voicemail still recorded.
Yeah. Oh god, I missed those phones, man.
Yeah, dude. I remember when I know we're going off on a tangent here, but I remember when the N-Gage came out, and I thought we were living in the future, dude. I'm like, a sideways cell phone? What is this black magic?
Dude, do you remember? That's just I remember when the Sega what was the handheld Sega.
What, it's not the Genesis, is it?
No, the one after Genesis, the handheld one that had like 16 batteries. Like,
it was like basically powered by a nuclear reactor.
Oh man, hold up. The Sega.
Dude, I'm drawing a blank on it. I just remember it was like the size of like a fucking laptop. Like it wasn't very handheld at all. It was just like it doesn't have cords. That's basically the only handheld thing about it.
The Game Gear. The Game Gear.
Oh yeah, dude, that's a real deep cut, dude. I had completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, man. That thing, it had like, I think it took like 16 batteries. It was like, it had like 3 hours of gameplay.
Exactly, dude. That thing was like slowly just burning your lap. Yeah. Like it was so like. Now that I think about it, man, like, you know how like people always say like never put a laptop on top of your, you know, your like, genitals because you're frying it? I'm pretty sure that Sega, they should have come with the same kind of warning. Dude. That thing was powered by too many things not to be cancerous.
I guarantee you, like everyone who uses one of those, they can do a study on nowadays. And
exactly.
Like, yep, you have some type of like testicular cancer because that's obviously where we all held it. So
exactly, dude.
Oh, God, good times, man. That's hilarious. Speaking of that, do you remember a lot of the old animes? You know, like Trigun, Bebop, Cowboy.
Trigun, Cowboy, classic. Bebop. I still say the '90s were the golden age of anime, man. Like,
my gosh.
These kids don't understand, and I know I'm saying kids. I'm only 28, but y'all don't understand.
Don't know.
And you don't remember when we lived in an age where Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, Naruto, Cowboy Bebop all existed simultaneously.
Yes.
Like, it was nowadays you get like you'd be lucky if you get 1 or 2 good animes a year.
Yes.
Like, now we're kind of in modern day anime's defense, we are kind of making a comeback with My Hero Academia.
Yeah, some of these other ones. Goblin Slayer. Yeah.
Exactly. But remember, those shows wouldn't exist because the foundation of those shows are built on the classics. You know? I do remember that.
I mean, when Outlaw Star, and then Fist of the North Star, and Wild. Dang it! What was the name of that other anime? Crap.
Because I remember my gateway. It's cliche. It was old school. I don't count Pokemon because to me Pokemon was far too westernized at the time I saw it to even be considered an anime, but Dragon Ball Z, bro. Like, I came in at not Dragon Ball Z, and then I went back and watched Dragon Ball.
I did too. Man, I remember coming home from middle school, watching Dragon Ball Z, and to this day, I remember it like it was yesterday. The episode where Goku went Super Saiyan for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that hits me right in the feels, bro, when Krillin just got exploded. And Goku was out there like, I'm about to just wreak. That's one of the few times you've seen Goku in that mode where, like, I'm going to murder the hell out of you.
Yes, and his hair turned yellow. And
he had a vein on his cheek, too. Eyes were golden white.
Man, I flipped shit. I was like, what just happened? I can't wait a whole week for this. I need to learn Japanese right now.
I need to do all these life choices just because of this scene.
Exactly.
Dude, you want to talk about, like, epic. I remember the first Dragon Ball Z episode I saw was when Trunks killed Cyborg Frieza.
Oh,
and he did the rave hands.
Gosh,
this dude showed up with a Hot Topic jacket. And then he does that. And I remember Trunks always, the English dub of Trunks' voice had this very nasally tone. He was like, hey, Frieza! And he blew him up. I'm like, oh! This dude just destroyed it. Because I remember at that time, Super Saiyan was still a big thing. Like, anyone that could go Super Saiyan, I'm like, yo, this dude is the truth. You know?
Yes.
And when he blew up Frieza in T-minus 5 seconds,
mine was blown.
And then he did the whole thing where he threw the sword in the air and then like just turned his head sideways and it just landed. I'm like, I gotta practice that. Almost decapitated myself like 15 times.
You're like grabbing kitchen knives, like, yo, this is happening.
Exactly. Can you just imagine walking in the kitchen and your parents see you with a knife sticking out the top of your head? Like, oh, Mom, I need to go to the hospital immediately.
Like, what happened? Well, Trunks did this cool thing. Who is Trunks?
Trunks, he's my friend, Mom. You don't understand me. God. Just run to my room crying.
Come right back. Oh, yeah, about this knife thing.
I'm bleeding to death. I need to go to the hospital.
Oh, man. God, I mean, I haven't thought about some of those memories in so long, you know, because I get so swept up in today. I mean, like, I love a lot of the fighting animes like Baki, and I love, you know, even the Street Fighter movies. I haven't thought about those in so long.
Oh, my God. Yeah, man. Like, you have a new appreciation for them when you see where anime is going, because you like, even My Hero Academia, which is like I would say it's my current favorite anime right now.
Okay.
And it's like, but I always understand that like characters like Deku wouldn't exist if characters like Goku didn't exist. Because the naive, limitless power type, that is literally Goku is the archetype. He's the OG of that. You know, can destroy planets with a snap of his fingers. You know, but at the same time, is good-hearted and almost too naive to his own detriment. Or if you know the dark guy that you don't know if he's a villain or not, but ultimately has a good heart, the Vegeta type, Bakugo. You know, like those. I always like comparing where anime is now to where anime was, because I just never knew that like watching something like Dragon Ball Z later down the line is going to pay off with something, you know, far superior to it. Because like even one I feel like a show that doesn't get enough appreciation is Avatar. Like Avatar is
just wrote I just wrote a post on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I got to write one on Korra.
And Legend of Korra, dude. Those shows were so fucking amazing.
They were
like
so lit.
I remember, like, because I remember, like, for example, like, the biggest thing about Avatar I always remember was there was a big emphasis on each martial arts style that's associated with the style of bending. And people forget that, like, one of the first animes to put a focus on martial arts and having superhuman abilities was Naruto. They were actually throwing legitimate kung fu moves at each other at the same time, blowing fireballs and shocking each other with electricity. But they were still doing legitimate stuff. Like, if you ever watched that fight with I'll never forget it, when Naruto first goes, I think it was One Tail, and then Sasuke at this point has been kind of taken over by Orochimaru, and they fight in that valley.
And they fight, at the two shinobi, like.
Yeah, and that shinobi valley, you know, and you saw, if you go back and watch that, and if you look at the fighting style, they're throwing hands, and you see every move. Unlike Dragon Ball Z, where they use I guess cop out's the wrong word to use, but they're moving too quick for you to see. It's an easy cop out, I guess. I will use the word. It's an easy cop out, you know. But nowadays, you notice Dragon Ball Z, like Dragon Ball Super, put a little bit more emphasis on showing how Goku is throwing hands, because that is where things are going, and that's the cool thing about it. Like, now you see that going forward, but one of the first to do it was Naruto. Like, even now, you know, Boruto. Like, every now and then, when I just like rewatching scenes over and over and over again, because I always wonder what was going through this guy's head when he made this scene. When you got a kid that has the power of a demonic fox, but that enhances his martial art and physical capabilities, like what were you thinking? Like what kind of drugs were you on? Because if so, I want some.
I need some of it.
Yeah, because man, the creativity back then was just insane.
Yeah. That's like you're talking about like throwing hands, and I remember all the way back to Fist of the North Star when he was like pop, 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 and hitting all the pressure points, and like that was to me about of course long before the Naruto days.
Yeah,
man, like I need to learn this martial arts style. I need to be.
I know. Why does everyone have machine gun hands? How do I learn this move? I can just punch you consecutively for 5 hours straight.
Like 100 punches.
I know, like, and then your body just explodes like 10 seconds later.
God, man. Oh, those are the good days. And that's, and everyone still uses that clip from Fist of the North that that thing he says like something Nani and like the part what is that? Everyone uses the clip. Oh gosh, I have to look it up. Where like he said in the anime he said, I can't remember because I don't speak freaking Japanese.
Yeah.
But he said like it translated to you don't know you're already dead. And he goes like Nani what? And then like everyone uses that clip now and things. And that's from Fist of the North Star.
North Star, yeah, because he basically is like you have a delayed L coming pretty much. Like your body doesn't even realize you're already dead, man. Like that's the reason why even with like anime cosplays, like I have so much respect for anime cosplayers because anime like is so overly specific with some of these costumes. Like for example, one of my favorite animes of all time is Bleach because I used to love the intricacy they put into each stage of transformation for Ichiko. Like when he went like the visor mode, I love the half mask, even the details they put on the half of the mask. And whenever you see like a cosplayer pull that off, I'm like, dude, good for fucking you, because that's not easy to do.
It's not.
And even when he goes full bring mode and pretty much he has like this weird exoskeleton. Like I remember I saw a guy at New York Comic Con last year rocking that, and I was just staring and amazed. I'm like, granted, you couldn't tell staring. It was just like, what the hell? Ronin is just looking at me like, is he about to murder me? But I was just in awe of his costume. I'm like, dude, you pulled it off. Because anime, what makes it amazing is because it's always attention to detail, whether it's the fight scenes, the story, or even, just how the suits look. So it's a hell of a world to live in.
It's like, man, to this day, I still want to do a Kimpachi cosplay.
Oh, nice.
I want to like take my dreads and like
spike them, have an eye patch.
Oh, yes, man. Run around and just be fucking
Dude, I always used to laugh at Kimpachi. He's the only guy that was running around with a Zanpakuto that wasn't sharpened at all, dents in it. Yeah, he still put it in work. And I remember remember that episode where you find out that like his eye patch actually is absorbing his like his soul energy because he's so damn powerful. Yeah. Like, cause I remember like he doesn't even get his bankai. He doesn't reveal it for a while because he's like it's too overpowered. Like I will kill you in like 2 seconds. He's almost like Saitama in One Punch Man. Like I'm tired of taking all these dubs.
Oh man, God, those were the good days.
Yeah, man, the golden age, man. But it's still here now. I mean, we got like good shows. Like I think the last good anime. I know we're not talking about cosplay, but bear with us, people. This stuff is awesome. Yeah. But the last good anime that caught me off guard, that was so good, is actually Megalobox. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Of course, because Hajime no Ippo is my favorite anime.
God, dude.
Of course, I've seen Megalobox.
Oh my God, bro. Ashita no Joe, man. People don't realize that anime is based off an anime that came out in the 1970s, man.
Yes.
And
you guys have to, side note, I just did a photo shoot with a good friend of mine. The Resident Workhorse is his Instagram name, and I have all the pictures of his Megalobox cosplay on my website. You got to go check it out if you are into the whole boxing thing. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like it's for those that haven't watched Megalobox, pretty much it's boxing with exoskeletons in the year like 3000.
Yep.
But the cool thing about it is that this dude is like an underdog, and he's fighting these guys that are usually like literally using mech suits that can probably punch through cars, and he's just going in there in no suit, just throwing hands.
Yep.
Yeah, just throwing hands, and somehow his skull doesn't crack when he gets hit like 20 times in a row, but we don't care about that.
No one cares. No one cares about the legitimacy of it. We're just trying to see him throw hands.
We just want to see him throw hands. Like, dude, it's just it caught me so off guard because it's a rare thing nowadays because the art style of that show is purposely meant to look old school. Mm-hmm. Like, everything looks very smooth nowadays. Even My Hero, like the skin is so smooth to the point these guys don't even have pores, Mm-hmm. Like, but with, with Megalobox, I appreciate that it had that Cowboy Bebop look. So it kind of brought me back.
Old school, man.
Yeah, that old school detail, like almost like what Dragon Ball Z used to have before Super came out, where they put details, even the muscles. Like, you can see the muscle striations on his arm. You can see the cuts on his face, like everything. And that's something that you don't see nowadays too often. man.
Exactly.
And it's so damn awesome. So
man, I know we've gone off on a tangent, but I think it's a great talk. And anyone who's listening, take some time, look up some of the stuff we said. I guarantee you won't be disappointed.
there's a lot of good info in there.
A lot. We've actually run out of time for today's podcast, so I just wanted to end it as I always do with one final question, and that is, who do you look up to in the cosplay world?
That's an interesting thing. I don't think I have a very specific individual, but I look up to people that really own their craft. The people that can walk down the street dressed as, like Ichiko from Bleach and not give a damn that people are looking at them, oddly. Like I look up to that person. So whoever those people are, I look up to that, look up to that community, because I remember when I was, first starting off, I used to be so self-conscious. Like you can still have a cool costume and still be nervous to walk out and wear it, because there's a big focus on how are people going to receive it, and do people understand that, this craft is not Halloween, but it's Monday and I'm rocking this costume in the middle of the afternoon.
This is happening. Yeah.
So the people that can override that feeling of, like I'm nervous or shy, I look up to them.
Nice, man. Very nice. Okay. Well, I would like to thank everyone for tuning into this podcast episode with Ronin. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, bro.
No problem. And everyone, just go check out a few of the older episodes. And until next time, stay boundless. See you guys later. Bye.
Take it easy.